here's the information that I received regarding that life is a continuum. That in itself for me was a bit mind-boggling, because what I understood from the messages that I received during my contemplations and meditations is that the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is now. And everything is happening in the now, as I just mentioned, and it's an infinite timeline on both spectrums. Past infinite going that way and future infinite going that way. And I've got to admit to you that, you know, even though I was receiving the message, I really couldn't understand it's quite that well. So until I received a vision, and the vision was somewhat like this picture that you're seeing. So it's a circle of hands, right? So if we think in terms of a circle doesn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end. It just is. It's a circle, right? So that in itself, I said, okay, I can start understanding that. Now, if you can imagine that each hand that you see on this picture is not a hand of just people, just different people, try to think of it more as the hands of every lifetime that you've experienced up until now. So each lifetime that you have I should say, is interconnected with each other. So that's pretty great, because then you realize how each lifetime serves its purpose and how each lifetime is really important. So if you grow and expand a lot in one lifetime, then all of that energy, all of that vibration, all of that level of consciousness that has happened will be shared with all the other lifetimes and have an impact on those lifetimes as well. And that's why life is a continuum, because we don't come in here with just a clean slate when we're babies and say, okay, we don't know anything. It's quite the opposite. We have a lot of baggage that we come in with, and each lifetime is focused on a certain piece of growth that we want to experience in that particular lifetime. Now, it could be more than one thing, obviously, but there's a general theme there, if you want, for that life purpose to be experienced in that particular lifetime. So that's really great. And I said, okay, well, I can buy that, you know, that we're all interconnected. And why I was able to accept that was because I personally experienced something that I've never really shared with anyone, because at that time I didn't even know what it really was. And let me share this with you. About 20 years ago, I was hiking and I was on the top of a mountain sitting down and admiring the beautiful view. And I must have been in a very contemplative, quiet state of mind, because all of a sudden, it's like I heard one of my lives in the past trying to talk to me. And I felt that it was me talking to me, but I couldn't figure this out. And it was a real nice message of love that was being sent to me from me. And of course, I didn't say this to anybody, because how could you explain something like that? So when I received this information from the spiritual realms and my inner guidance, it immediately clicked. That's what that was. So that's why for me, this truth sounds, well, it's truth for me, sounds right, because I've experienced it. Now, the other concept where everything is happening at once, now that one I was still struggling with and couldn't quite figure that one out until, of course, with more hours of meditation, got the answer to that one too, I think, anyways, for me. And basically it's that everything revolves around your level of consciousness, and your level of consciousness is directly linked to the vibration of energy that you emanate. And so if you're living in this lifetime right now, you're vibrating at a certain frequency, and that frequency is within a certain range. So everything that you see around you, everybody that is around you, everything that you touch around you fits within that range of energy for you to be able to perceive it. And So it's like, that is called like a dimension. So when we say that everything is happening at once, it means that in the same spot where I'm sitting now, there is another dimension that exists within this dimension, but at a different frequency. And so the past lives are here, and the future lifetimes are here, but at different dimensions on planet Earth. So it's a multi-dimensional planet that we live in. And that's why if you look at the circle, you can see that you just try to put one layer on top of the other, and those are all the dimensions that are happening at once. And one of the proofs that we can have of that is that people that claim that they're clairvoyant. And when they say they're clairvoyant, they're tapping into the future events or even past events that may have occurred to you, may have happened to you in your lifetime. And so, or may happen, I should say, for the future. And I always was wondering, how could they do that? And now that I understand this concept a bit better, and I'm sure I'm only skimming the surface of it, then I can understand how a clairvoyant would be able to tap into that dimension if that clairvoyant has the capability of vibrating at the same frequency as that event or that lifetime or that timeline. And so one of the very important things that is important to remember is that because we're growing and expanding all the time, then that's why we can shift. So what the clairvoyant taps into and says, this is what's going to happen, if there's a shift in one of your other lifetimes, or even in the one that you're conscious of right now, that also can change the course of the event. So that's why sometimes clairvoyants can be right in their predictions, and sometimes they can be wrong in their predictions. And it's not because they're really wrong, it's just because there's a shift that occurred, a change in frequency that occurred and changed the course of certain events. Now, I know you might think that all of this sounds a bit crazy, and maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just speaking very honestly to you of what information I received. And the reason why I was receiving this kind of information is that my life at one time, and we always have struggles and we'll always have struggles, but I was struggling a bit there and really couldn't figure out what's the purpose of living, really, because it's sometimes very, very painful, and where is this all going to, And when you start asking more profound questions to the universe, and with an intention that you really want to deepen your level of awareness and get closer to your truth, you will open up the channel to receive that and accept that kind of teachings from a higher consciousness. And I think that's what happened with me. And that's why I'm sharing this with you today. Now, the other thing I would like to share with you and to bring this to another level is that not only are we that our lives are all interconnected. That was a tongue twister. Also, everybody else's lifetimes are also interconnected, meaning I'm interconnected with all of your lifetimes and you're interconnected with all of my lifetimes. How great is that? So that means that like we're one big connected family and we all are affecting each other. And so that's also really important to realize that anything that we do, think, or whatever has a direct impact not only on us and on our own lifetimes, but also the lives and lifetimes of everybody else that's connected to us. So if we judge someone, we're really judging ourselves. It's going to boomerang right back in our face. Now, the important thing to understand is that we are all interconnected via our hearts. And that's why it's so important to have an open heart. When we have an open heart, that means we can really feel that connection with our other lives and also with everyone else. And there's a much deeper sense of pure love and pure divinity in that connection. When our hearts are closed, that's when we feel separate from each other. That's where we become more, we suffer more, we're more in pain, because we're not tapped into that source, that infinite, pure, magnificent, extraordinary, awesome source of energy that is all within us. So that's why it's so important to have that ongoing connection with your heart, to tap into that wisdom and feel the connection with everyone else. Because when we feel the connection with everyone else, that's where the love flows freely amongst all of us, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And the growth and expansion that happens from that, and the vibration just increases. It just makes everything so much full of love. And that's what we're striving for. And so every time we tap into that immensity of intelligence, pure intelligence and love, that's when we just jump. We have big jumps of consciousness that happen to us. Okay, so let's take this a step further. So if we follow the logic that we're all interconnected, all our lifetimes, our personal lifetimes are all interconnected, and they're all happening at once, except they're at different dimensions, different layers of dimensions. That means that in those lifetimes that are occurring now, you're acquiring a lot of experience at many different levels, different skill sets, and you know, you've probably mastered some things, and you've gained a lot of experience in different domains. And what I want to suggest to you is that means that you can tap into that experience or that skill set that you're looking for in this lifetime now. Why reinvent the wheel? And so, because you can actually tap into that. Now that I realize that, I'm starting to do it myself. So it's like you have access to a huge amount of resources, and all you have to do is to be on that frequency to accept that information. And of course we can take it another step further, and that is that if all of our lifetimes are connected to everybody else's lifetimes, all happening at once, that means that we can tap into the collective consciousness of humanity that has everything in there. So if you're looking for, like I said, a specific skill set or some advice or some guidance, and the person doesn't have to be dead, by the way. If you admire somebody and you'd like to be mentored by somebody that you respect, nothing stops you from doing that. Isn't that fantastic? All you have to do is to, 1, set the intention, 2, calm your mind, very important, 3, open your heart, and 4, breathe. And if you do that, you'll open up that frequency to that guidance that you're looking for. And it might come to you like while you're driving your car or something like that, and you hear something and then you get that inspiration. So like I said before, you don't have to have any expectations of how it's going to appear in your life, but if you really set the intention and you really keep trying to connect that way, don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen right away, but as you keep working on it, as you keep practicing, as you keep increasing your level of energy, of vibration, of consciousness, you'll literally be able to tap into a lot of that incredible resource of intelligence that you never thought was possible. So the internet is nothing compared to this, I can assure you. So imagine all that we have to look forward to. I'm just so excited. Okay, so we've that was a long session there on humanity, but I really felt that I needed to share that with you, and I feel terrific that I have. And I hope it's been helpful to you. And in the next slide, I have a question that basically I would like to have your feedback. If any of this sounds true to you, or if you have any personal experience that you'd like to share with me that can help me also trigger something inside of me, I'd love to hear from you. I would really appreciate it so much if you would take the time just to, provide me some feedback of what you think of what we discussed in the last 15-20 minutes or so. Okay? Thank you so much.